Hey guys, welcome back to Honeycomb. My name is Kayo. Of course, you guys see a lot of content from me, but one of my favorite shows to do is what we call T-dubs, or things we watched. So see what we did there. It's a T and then for the things and then we watched. And joining us for things we watched today are some guys who you know. First, we have over here on my right side, we have Peter Rebadomia.
Hey guys.
Peter's still halfway through lunch. You guys know him. We've seen him before. Also here, back again, is Ralph Lau.
Hey.
And finally joining us for the first time, we have... How do I introduce you?
Could say, I guess with my name. Paolo seems to fit.
We have Paolo Narciso.
Hey.
Pao is a co-producer at PopExpo.
Indeed, I am.
Which is an event that Honeycomb produces as well, which is kind of like our geek expo.
Yes, and it is an indefinite hiatus until we start seeing events back in the Philippines.
Yeah, which is hopefully that comes back as soon as next year.
Hopefully next
have
year.
Our way, and hopefully our
Summer
friends
looks good.
Yeah, hopefully our friends over at Warner Media, who we've worked with over the past 3 Pop Expos, want to do it again, but we'll see where that goes.
Right, yes, when the new world comes.
Safety first.
Yeah, well, everything's kind of been in movement, and the story that we're going to be talking about today is the new show on Netflix called Arcane. What is Arcane? I'd like to ask Peter. Peter?
All right, so Arcane is a show made by RIOT Games. It's about the prequel, or rather a retelling of the backstories of some of the characters in the League of Legends game. In particular, it's focused on Vi and Jinx, and some other characters. And it has like 3 episodes, and they're gonna release 9. Is that right?
All right. So right now we have seen 3 episodes. They're releasing over a span of 3 weeks, a total of 9 episodes. So the first one's drop. The next one's drop tomorrow, and then the last one will be a week later. And it looks... Actually, we should save that for the predictions portion at the end. So I'm not going to say what it looks like, but there is some stuff to definitely look forward to, right? In terms of the story. Ralph, have you played a lot of League of Legends?
Yeah, so I think I've been playing for the past 10 years on and off, since high school essentially. I don't play as much now, but I do play TFT, which is a sub game in it. And there's a lot of there's a shift in a lot of characters, which include the current cast of the series. And I think they're letting on some clues on why the categorization of some of their heroes are that way. This set, what do you call it? So let's see.
Wow, what's your experience with League of Legends?
I've played like maybe 1 or 2 games of League of Legends in my life. But I've played the other MOBAs, specifically, I guess, Dota, beforehand. So I guess I didn't get so much into LoL myself. So I'm coming into this pretty fresh. I have no familiarity with the characters coming in, nor the world, nor the lore.
All right, great, because I'm in the same boat. I think that this show is for guys like you and me, because I actually don't have very much experience with League of Legends either. I've actually never played a game of League of Legends, ever. I play a lot of Valorant, right? Like a lot of Valorant now, a lot of unrated Valorant. It's kind of been my window into what the aesthetic is like, what that steampunk... But in terms of that being as part of League of Legends, the aesthetic of League of Legends, I have actually had no experience. And I actually didn't know that this was what League of Legends was like until I watched this. Like, just watching League of Legends, watching people play, I totally didn't get that it was steampunk. At all.
So that might not be true, because that's only one aspect of it. Because right now, and we'll get into it a bit more, but they're right now focused on the city of Piltover, which is basically a main city, right? So it is steampunk in that regard, but a lot of the other half And a lot of what we hope to see maybe in the future for next series is a lot of the magic, the arcane, literally, and all of the other worlds and races that they have.
And that's one of the things that we're really getting a picture into is what is the total, what is this universe about? And now we're getting kind of this close-up look into this aspect of the lore that we've never, ever seen before. Unfortunately, Tony, who's our other co-producer in PopExpo, couldn't join us today. He's out with a non-COVID related illness. And that's what they call it in basketball. And Tony is the one who's actually most familiar with the lore in the League of Legends. But we did have a chat group in preparation for this. And Tony was saying that up until now, there really hasn't been a lot of information about these characters. So let's go to Peter. Peter, now that we know a little bit more about these characters, what do you feel was like how do you feel about it? How do you feel about Arcane?
Thankfully, since I'm engrossed in the lore of League of Legends from the time that I guess my peak League of Legends gaming was around 2015.
What rank were you? What rank were you?
I never played ranked. I just played with my friends, just with my play group.
I'm the same though. Like I play Valorant, but I'll only play competitive. I'll only play a ranked game if someone is like, "Oh, we have a good team together. Let's play some competitive." And like, I just want to play another game with those same guys.
Yeah.
So there's room for that kind of play.
Yep.
Yeah. And hey, Peter, you're saying.
So again, I'm familiar with the characters that were announced, who are gonna show up in the show. But the thing that I noticed was they told the story differently. They had a different approach, and they showed some different aspects of their backstories that weren't part of the original lore. But then again, Riot has been doing some rewrites of the lore.
Are you saying that Arcane is retcon?
It's a retelling.
So actually,
And
I was
here's the
curious about that, is how true to source material. Although there isn't really source material because a lot of the lore is literally a background sheet of each character and that's about it. Outside of a few, fan-made or like elaborate storytellings of like maybe Gangplank and Misfortune had more elaborate ones. But yeah, for like Vi and Jinx, I'm actually not sure if their story was this in-depth or elaborate. So I'm actually not sure or curious, is it true to lore or true to the original lore?
So the creators of Arcane were the creative director and the creative designer of League of Legends. So that's Alex Yee and Chris Link.
Okay.
They were heavily involved in creating Vi and Jinx, and they used this opportunity to tell their backstory. But here's the thing, here's their disclaimer. This is not a canonical retcon of the story.
So it's not. They're not retconning it.
But they're retelling. But they're not. They specifically said that they're not forcing anyone's hand in Riot, because right now Riot Games is slowly shaping the world of League of Legends, right?
Yeah.
Because back then, when they made League of Legends, they were really just like, oh, let's just make summoners fight one another in the fields of justice. There's no real lore to it.
To be fair, they were like the second MOBA on the market, right?
Yep.
At that time. Yeah.
I mean, they beat Dota to a standalone client. When League of Legends...
Well, actually, Han beat Dota first. Heroes of New Earth.
So there was Heroes of New Earth,
And
but
then-
I think League of Legends was in development first before Heroes of New Earth.
When
but
did
maybe
LoL
Han
start?
came out first.
Because Han came out 2013, I
I
think.
think 2011. LoL was around 2011, I think.
Is it 2011? Okay.
So interestingly enough in the whole timeline of things, the LoL came out. They were second to market in the
Technically, yeah.
genre.
Yep. And when they made League of Legends, they just made backstories for each character without really thinking of a bigger narrative aside from, this is the world of Runeterra. It's split into 2 continents, and there are some major cities, and some of the champions from these cities are called sometimes in the fields of justice in order to settle disputes between nations.
Is that what the Summoner's
Original
Rift is
lore.
for?
Yep.
It's
So
their
basically,
way
these
to
summoners,
handle conflict. Okay.
these summoners call in champions from different cities in order to like settle debates or settle disputes through fighting.
Right, yeah.
And the
of
thing
course.
is, Riot Games did away with that entire lore altogether.
So why aren't they retconning the character backgrounds of these characters if they're reshaping everything anyway?
It's how do you call this? They find that it will be more effective in a storytelling perspective if they give creative freedom in how they're gonna tell the story of the characters without necessarily attaching themselves to the current lore in the biography of the characters in the game.
Right.
And we're gonna get there later in the spoilers because there are some very interesting things that they changed in the current established lore.
For what it's worth, I like that idea that they're not beholden to anything that they've written in the past. Because
that's why we're arguing to retcon it instead, to change what was written in the past in line or in the benefit of making a new world out of the things that already has been written, instead of having both exist at the same time.
sure, I mean, I think if you look at any video game like
That's fair.
adaptation in a different media, they always struggle to bring all the characters in to tackle all aspects of the lore, especially if they're trying to be quote unquote canonical for the series, and it just gets more and more complicated.
No, I'd argue
the
to drop.
larger
I'd
their-
drop the previous lore. Is what I'm saying actually.
Sorry?
Like the reason to retcon it is to drop all previous lore.
Yeah, I think especially for something like this where you have I'm just gonna guess about 60 something champions already, like with possible lore. Like, I think that it's the right approach to just throw it all out and write a new story with the characters and flesh it out as the characters would be in the situations provided to them. Because again, I think the initial lore was put just to be a hook for people to read into and not necessarily meant to be a coherent story. And me, as a consumer of media, I'd rather see a coherent story than anything else.
And that's exactly what Riot is trying to do now. They're shaping the canon. Again, there's no solid canon yet with regards to the storyline. That's why they're making rewrites of each character slowly. They're rolling out new stories, and they're also writing short stories in their website, right? They're shaping the canon now, and Arcane is in a pretty good spot to solidify some aspects of that canon. So technically, they're not disrespecting, or they're not looking to be accurate to the canon, because they're still shaping that canon right now.
Let me take a pause because I think there's a misunderstanding of what retconning means.
Ralph, why don't you have a centralized definition so we're all on the same page?
Yeah. No.
What is a retcon to you?
Well, retcon to me is not a full disregard of like what was previous lore, but basically treating canon in what is it called? Canon. What'd you say it? Canonically speaking, retconning, it means not this sort of what they did to Star Wars Legends, right? Is everything is now retcon towards to making the current storytelling of the characters true.
So Star Wars is a really good example because we just recently had that Star Wars Visions show on Disney Plus, which is really good. ExpressVPN, if you want a referral code. You can use mine so I can get some free VPN. But they're not a sponsor. I'm just saying, like, there's a referral system. But yeah, they just did that Star Wars Vision show, and that show is clearly not canon, right?
Not meant to be
No, of
canon.
course, it's not meant to
intended.
be
That's fair.
canon.
That's fair.
Yeah, and so basically what you have is content that is not bound by
Exactly.
needing to fit into that universe, but you're able to tell good stories. And I think this is a really good example because my understanding as not a League of Legends player is that they've never actually said that Vi and Jinx are related, that they're actually sisters.
Oh, that is canon, right?
That is canon.
Yeah, that is canon.
And it's hinted in several lines in game. We will get to that later.
Yeah.
All right, so that was just my understanding, is that it's been hinted at, but no one really went out there and said these two are sisters, or like it wasn't
Explicit, yeah.
It wasn't necessarily written from the start that was what was going on.
Correct.
Yeah. So I just see that and I think, okay, maybe if more of the characters are related, then Pao's right. Like you get the opportunity to introduce more motivation into some of these characters, and I can only see that as a good thing. Is that what you mean, Pao?
Well, what I mean is that it's really a challenge to take all of these characters and put them in a single world and tell a single story with all of them. And especially if you have to respect everything that came before, that was really just to be a trapping for
but that's what I'm saying, is that they should disregard a lot of the lore in terms of relation or in terms of, basically, in a way, scrap that literal biography of what they have and allow those characters and like rebuild it entirely. Because I think that'll make.
Don't they just need a Feige?
A what?
Don't they just need a Kevin Feige like in the Marvel universe?
That's very true. Yeah.
Like a main story editor that makes all these decisions. Like
I guess that's what we're seeing, right? Or what we're hoping to see out of this collaboration with Riot and Netflix, that, they create an entirely new world and not be beholden to just lore from what was written. And it's good. No, I agree that they should just use these characters in any creative direction that they see fit, that, makes it very interesting storytelling.
To be fair, considering it's in the hands of the creative director, that's already a pretty good sign that maybe he will be their Kevin Feige, where you have a steering hand that's going to help create the universe.
Yeah.
Because I like from what I've seen of it, as somebody who doesn't know anything about League of Legends really, I like the stuff that they're hinting at. I like the larger world that they have sort of coming out. I like the aesthetic, and so far I've come to care about the characters. Like I think the big pitfall you have in a lot of these video game styles of shows inspired by video games is where they try to introduce too much at once, where they try to throw all the characters out there and give them a role. I don't want that. Give me a couple of people to care about, and then slowly let me get invested in it slowly. Don't throw me in as if I have everybody memorized.
I think I would agree with that. And this system that they're using of claiming to focus on Vi and Jinx, right? Which in the beginning we call Powder, right? A lot of the promotional material really is centered around Powder, right? Which is Child Jinx. And okay, I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna get into like what I liked and what I didn't like.
Let's go spoilers
about this show. We'll do spoilers in a moment. What I really liked about this show is that I didn't know anything about League of Legends, and I started watching it, and I was informed about things that I never knew about it. Now I'm actually interested in League of Legends, and I think that's kind of the point of the show. And if you know how games are put together, you have story editors and development editors that decide what do the characters say, what do they I'm thinking more in line of something like a Call of Duty is what I'm more familiar with, right? Who are these characters? What are their backstories? Where do they go? What are the emotional journeys that they have to go through? And all of those are pretty much the same that you would need to go through for any original content, right? But what they're basically doing here is making, and argue with me if you want, they're basically making feature-length cutscenes using the same 3D technology that they're really good with, increasing the quality of the textures, right, of the renders. But ultimately, these are the same methodologies that you would use to make cutscenes.
Yeah.
But they're doing them in full length. And I think that that's a great idea. And that's what I really liked about it. When I first started watching this, I actually thought this is a great thing for the kids to watch, because then it could get them also into League of Legends. That doesn't work out so well. So I'm glad I didn't start them on it. Like, that's not too spoilery to say. We'll get into that later. But first two episodes, it's really great for, like, I would absolutely let the kids get into it. And then that third episode, it's like a punch in the gut. So But in terms of like introducing someone new to the universe, I think job well done. What I didn't like is some of the creative choices in terms of production, where I felt like all of a sudden it was a video game cutscene. Now, when you're doing animation like Finding Nemo, and this is something that Pixar did really early on purpose, was that they tried to put the camera in places where a human cameraman would put it. And they tried to mimic camera movements that were similar to Steadicams and things that we were familiar with, so that when people watch the shows, the movies, these Pixar movies, they felt like they could enter into those worlds a lot more easily than if they were just doing all these wild things that computers can do or a virtual camera can do. There were a few shots in this series where I felt like the camera moved like a video game camera. Like instead of like the anchoring point of the camera moving kind of like a steady cam, it moved like you dropped the camera on a bungee cord. And it was just like bouncing around, like, increased jiggle, right? As a just like a slider. And that really took me out of the, I'm watching TV, and threw me into the, oh man, I'm watching a cutscene, right? So that's something that really took me out of it. But other than that, the production quality is through the roof. And this is really nice to see, because in the past, we've had a lot of terrible video game movies.
Oh, man.
Look at Pao's face.
Yeah.
We had a lot of really bad video game movies, but this is the first time that we've had a video game show that's kind of gone in kind of the reverse of what you usually have, which is people will make like a video game to accompany a movie. Right? Like you have like the Harry Potter, and it's garbage, right?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Warner, but those video games are garbage. And this is the first time that's going in reverse, and that goes really well. And those are the things I really liked about the movie. Pao.
One thing I want to say about that worked surprisingly well is anytime you use a song with lyrics as a score, you have to do it tastefully, because otherwise it becomes distracting.
Which song was this?
I don't remember,
Enemy?
but when they introduced the Undercity, whatever it's called, I don't know. It's not called Undercity. It's
Zon.
Zon. When they introduce Zon, and you get your first look at it, it's a pop song that comes on, and it has to be used. It's a technique that has to be used tastefully for it to come out right. And they did it well, where it's the montage of showing you all the stuff that's going on in that underground city, and that they had music playing over it. And I was like, you know what? This kind of works.
I think
Like,
Riot does that very well, because like even for Worlds, they always use the lyrics on. And so far, I think Imagine Dragons has 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah,
It's
the
already-
intro is theirs,
It's
right?
always
Yeah.
theirs. Yeah, even Worlds last year or the year before, it was Imagine Dragons song too. I can't remember.
So I am actually super thrilled with what Riot's doing in general. Like, if you were gonna ask me like one company that's like in that unicorn gonna change the world position, it's got to be Riot. That's what, or Meta. But people are turning on Meta really fast.
Doesn't matter. They're gonna do what they're gonna do.
Well, that. But with that said, I wish that this is what I didn't like was I wish they had figured out the relationship of Zon and
Piltover.
a
Is it
little bit
Piltover?
better.
Piltover.
Piltover? Okay.
I mean, at the very start, I was like, oh, this is cool. There's a whole city underneath the other city. I mean, it happens in the first 10 minutes. I don't think that's a spoiler. But then as the series goes on, it's like, okay, is Zon... It seems like Zon is just on the outskirts of Piltover at some point. It's like, oh, we're in like a warehouse.
There's a bridge between.
It's-
Yeah.
Is it so? Do you take the elevator to get there, or does it exist on top of each other?
It's
Is it
underground.
outside each other? Is Zon really more of like a political space than it is a physical space. I felt those relationships felt a little bit
it's a
underdeveloped.
bit more of a political space. Explain that.
I mean, is on more of a
Classist.
feeling? Like, is it a class thing, or is it the city that's underneath? Is it the city that's around, that's built around, built over? Or is it actually a physical space? I mean, these are just one of the things
I
that I
agree with
found
that.
myself questioning, especially when you see the characters moving sort of in between them. I found myself wondering, like, wait a minute, what part are
Of the
we
city,
in?
yeah,
What
yeah,
part
yeah.
of the city are we supposed to be
Yeah, a
in?
geographical location would have been nice because I agree. Like after the elevator scene,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like they were actually underground.
Yeah.
Like after that first scene, because they have to take a bridge to get over to the top side, or to the city. So that doesn't make sense that they're always under, or unless they're in like a part of the mountain that has no other space to go, but they have access to the docks. So that's like,
Are these are the docks part of Built Over, or are they part of Zon? Are these abandoned warehouses part of Built Over, or is it part, I don't understand.
All right, Ralph. Things you liked and things you didn't like.
overall, I think like what you mentioned, the production values through the roof. Everything's great in terms of execution, marketing, character design. The only things I don't like, and before we get into the spoilers part, I think the tropes are a bit overused. Like there's no real. I don't feel like. I feel like there was a lot of space to take the characters outside of the normal narratives of these situations, and I think we'll get into that later. But these characters are in general mythical, right? They're all coming from another world. They all have but I do know they're human, right? They're trying to record them as human, but I think there was a lot of space for them to create unique or special characters out of them, outside of the normal social, political, economical drama that we're used to. I personally, and this is not really, because I personally thought it would have been nice if League of Legends started from the mythical side of things instead of the city, instead of the human side of things, because there's so much lore in the other side, in the other continent.
So you're saying you don't like that they are discovering magic?
So that's fine with me. I mean, I guess it's just a opinion on timing, like because League is about literally magic and fighting and stuff like that. It would be cool if we see the characters that are not in the city.
But I would argue that the reason why I like this show is that it's not about magic right away. Like
That's
the thing that I don't like, the only thing that has kept me from League is that generally speaking, and I know I'm giving up a chunk of nerd cred to say this, is that there's very few high fantasy that I can really ride on. There needs to be some sort of technology element for me to really
So
be
you're
on
really
board.
gonna like hex tech.
I think also strategically speaking, it makes sense for them to go with what makes them
I do agree with that.
unique.
Yeah.
With you saying about magic being a big part of their universe, which obviously it is, it doesn't really differentiate it from it. If they had used that, it might be harder for them to differentiate themselves from other properties. The whole
agree.
like magic steampunk thing, I can't, off the top of my head, think of another property that's done it quite as well and become
Wild
popular.
Wild West. Oh, it became popular. Okay.
Hey man, Wild Wild West. Best thing to come out of that was a song, bro. I love that song.
But again, Pao is our resident Wild Wild West apologist.
Hey, I'm not saying it's a good movie. I'm just saying that's an excellent song.
Okay. All right, let's go to Peter. Peter, what did you like? What you didn't like?
So the biggest thing that I liked about this movie, aside from the production value, is how they retold the stories of certain characters that I like, especially that one character who was just whose current biography isn't really that much fleshed out, but when they showed it on screen, it all made sense. And I also especially liked how the in-game voice lines in League of Legends were connected into Arcane and fleshed out in there. So suddenly, all of the things that were in game ever since 2018, like some voice lines between two characters who interacted with one another, suddenly it made sense. Like it doesn't just a throwaway line anymore.
Wait, are you saying that they took actual lines that appear in the game that you hear? You know, you're playing a game and they say the same things over and over. You're saying that they took those lines and put them into the show?
There are some certain lines in the game, like when there are two characters who encounter themselves in the field and they have this connection with one another in lore. Sometimes they have special lines for those characters when they meet. They haven't necessarily told the exact story or context behind those lines, but some of them made it into Arcane and then they explained it there.
Did they use the exact lines or are they just referenced?
No, they referenced it.
Are you the same
Reference, okay.
voice actors for like Vi and Jinx? Are they the same voice actors in the show and in the game?
No, you got like Haley
Yeah,
Steinfeld in there. You got kind of
I didn't check. I did not check the
the
cast.
voice acting is incredible. Like it's kind of a great kind of all-star cast in terms of voicing. Not all-star, but like high-level voicing. And hey, Peter, you're
And again, like what I said, there's this connections that are established in game that were fleshed out in Arcane. Like for instance, there's this in the game. It's implied or said outright that Vi and Jinx have a connection. They have a past behind them, but they haven't really said it. But in Arcane, they explained it that they knew one another from back then, and they're kind of sisters. And there's this one specific character that I will go into the spoilers, and I will explain it, and I will go deep into that character's lore later. It's their dad.
Great.
But what I didn't like about the show is the geographical discrepancies.
Yeah.
When they're in the middle of a chase, like once the chase starts in Piltover, and then suddenly they just turn into an alley, and they're suddenly in Zone now.
Right.
Like, how did that happen?
Right.
Like I think okay, sure, they passed by the sewers, but that's supposed to be a long ass sewer because Zone is underneath Piltover.
And they take the time to show you, oh, they go into an elevator. I was like, oh, what is this? Their secret base? And then when it goes down and they show the whole city, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Like this is cool.
Yep.
But never again is that
Explain.
never, and so they even seem to skip over that idea a few times whenever it's convenient to the plot.
And you'd think it would take a long while to get from the top of Piltover to underneath Zone.
Yeah, they never figure out the verticality.
On
right?
that topic, and this is a spoiler now, I think.
wait, not yet. I just want to ask first.
We're not yet done.
We're here.
How many sewers in magical cities have you fallen through in the past? How many magical elevators have you gone down? Like
I'm just saying,
In-game?
First of all, that's true. They do take the time to show that okay, they're going from Piltover to Zon, and they use the elevator to do so. And then later on, it's just
walking around.
They're just walking around. It's just that ambiguity. And there was never a verticality issue again. And as they take that time to show it, that first time or in that first 10, 20 minutes, they never go back to the idea that they have to move up and down between these two locations.
Because I think that's a big concern in their world. Like it should be, right?
Yeah.
But like, can I go spoiler? Because we're on the topic.
all right. So spoilers start now for Arcane League of Legends. All right, Ralph, go ahead.
So in the third episode, they're in the docks, right? They have the explosion happens, right?
Yep.
The explosion reaches Singe's lab, right?
Yes.
the big ass shark fish octopus thing is underwater. How does that make sense? On which side of the window is that underwater thing facing? Into Piltover, where no one knows that there are monsters in their lake, or into the mountainside, which I assume where the other side is facing, that there's a huge ass monster and no one knows it's there.
You're talking about the
Fish, the giant fish.
No, you're talking about the explosion
Okay, so
in the climax.
yeah,
Yeah.
With a symbol.
yeah.
Okay, but that's a magical explosion. It's
No,
an
no, 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 no,
explosion
no.
of magic,
No, no, no.
right?
What I'm saying is the explosion happens at the docks or abandoned warehouse, whatever. The explosion reaches Singe's lab where he was doing all the pink gooey stuff, right?
But the abandoned warehouse is like their port. That's how they get to.
So
No,
that-
it's not
so,
explained.
that's one of that's what I meant about the ambiguity of location. That okay, where is this lab supposed to be? Is it Piltover? Is it in Zon?
So if we were to base it off of the other things that happen in the episodes, is that the docks face Piltover.
Okay.
Because it's on the bridge side. Because when Marcus was looking at it, he was on the opposite end of the bridge looking at the abandoned warehouses.
I'm really confused about whether or not, like, do people swim in this world? Because like there's a moment where Powder throws the loot off the dock and it sinks into the water, and then everyone just gives up.
Exactly.
Right,
That's
yeah.
also another
That's a
issue.
weird
So it
moment.
could make sense that there is a monster underneath the water, and the water at the dock level is, 100 meters deep, whatever.
And it would explain that.
A lot of other things. Yes.
Yeah, but so you're saying that at some point someone just needs to show you that so that you can get it,
Yeah, and
so that we can connect those dots.
And on another tangent, the scene where Vander is, drowning Silco, the water is knee deep.
Yeah.
So please tell me how deep and where are the water?
There's probably different places where there are water.
I think the bridge was in the background in that scene where he was being drowned.
There's this thing called submarine topography where
Yeah, I know it could literally drop off, but again, you need to explain at the very least, make sense of like.
But how? You show a map of a submarine
No,
topography?
you could just even if it's like a shot from Piltover looking at the other side of the bridge. That's all we need, like to just understand where Zone and the underground city is access to, right? Is it facing the mountains? Is it facing the wilderness? Like, hello?
There's a visual cue to know when you're in Piltover or in Zone is if it's
Filthy.
if it's daytime. If you see the sun, you're in Piltover. You will never see the sun in Zone.
Okay.
You could also do it
hold
with
on.
color.
And
color.
And in the first episode when Powder threw the bag in the water,
Yeah.
there's sunlight. So that establishes that the docks is in Piltover.
No, they crossed the bridge.
Yeah, but there's the sun.
They crossed the bridge.
There's still
It
the
doesn't-
sun.
No, they crossed the bridge, meaning there are no enforcers on that side.
But does that necessarily mean that it's in Zone? If there are no enforcers on
No,
that
it doesn't
side?
matter.
Or is it just-
That's fair. Okay, that is fair.
Or is it just unpoliced?
I didn't realize the magical geography
But
would
still.
be so contentious.
But I mean, that's one of the things that like geography is a huge part of League of Legends.
And I would say it's also a huge part of high fantasy in general. Like, how many
think
books
Lord
have
of
you
the-
opened up where
Cities
the very
matter,
first thing
yeah.
they show you is the geography of like the continent of the fantasy continents? and
Thank you
something like
very
that.
much, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Well, he was really the one who
Decided to draw out everything.
Yeah, he's really the one who did that. I don't think that was sarcasm on Kayo's part.
No, I'm sincerely
Yeah.
like, again, when I said earlier that there's very few high fantasy that I can really get into, a big part of that is that the first one I ever read was Lord of the Rings, and it's kind of hard to catch up with that.
Yeah, I read a lot of like high fantasy novels when I was younger, and I do remember that clearly that they would often have maps just to show you how the content is laid out, how their epic adventure takes them from point A to point Z. And with that, like, I guess I just wish that they had thought about the transition points a little bit better.
And arguably, this is one of the main problems with Game of Thrones, the book, is that because those maps are not really fleshed
Accurate,
out
yeah.
in that book. You don't really feel. It's very difficult to remember all of the characters and where they all went, and then that's a really good example of the cinematic
Shortcuts.
adaptation. No, like when you're watching Game of Thrones, you never doubt who you're with or where you are. You kind of know just by the visual. And maybe that's something that Arcane could learn from or build upon in the future. But so far, I think generally speaking, we are confused about geography.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think I'm confused about the geography. Just that
The mechanics.
It almost feels like
It's a minor thing. Yeah, we're nitpicking.
It's a nitpick.
It's almost a nitpick. That it's just that.
Like we're not, there's no issues with like how they travel or how they move around. It's just, visually or again, it's a perspective on like, getting into it.
It's just I just wish I had a little bit more detail of how the relationship between these two places are spatially. Like,
'Cause
is
I
it
think-
up and down? Is it down and around? Where does it lie? But again, that I was interested enough to try to wonder about that. At least had me like bought into the world. Another thing that I just also sort of liked about it is, I think the smart thing maybe it's smart to release it as chunks of 3 episodes because it becomes a movie trilogy, assuming they stick to the same amount of time with each one, because it was 40 minutes long per episode. It's about 2 hours each, 2 hours and split into three editions that are 2 hours each. It's a movie trilogy.
And people might disagree with this. Ultimately, it's an advertisement.
It is.
Like they're trying to get people into this world. Like the big moneymaker right now is the game. Maybe at some point the lore will also become a big moneymaker. But right now, all the money is in the game. So that they can get new people into the game, now you're talking. All right, so spoilery things that you really, really like, but you couldn't talk about earlier because it was spoilery. Anyone have something?
Can I start?
Go.
Can I just dive straight into Vander?
Go for it,
Vander.
go for it.
I'm gonna go straight to Vander because he's my favorite. Vander,
He's your even as a champ.
as a champ, yes.
I see.
Who is he supposed to be?
So here's the thing. Vander, as established in Arcane, was a former criminal who gave up his bloody past and then put down his blade and settled down into a civilian life. He is implied to have anger issues, and he's called the Hound of the Underground. And Silco called him a lapdog. Do you see the theme now?
He's supposed to be Warwick.
Yes.
Interesting.
And
That
the
is interesting.
Warwick's established biography is he was a former criminal with a good heart. Warwick settled down, and then he turned into a monster through an experiment done by Singed, who is Silco's lab assistant, the alchemist.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
one of the things
not
I
expect
did
that.
while watching the show was I kept trying to guess, is that a champ? Is that a champ? Is that a champ? That
Yeah.
I just searched for it. I was like, okay, instead of looking up the characters individually, I am just going to search and find an article that says which champs are in the 3 episodes so far, so I can stop second guessing.
And I'm on the other side because I don't care.
You don't know those
They
who
don't
those
know
champs are,
who it
yeah.
is. Oh.
No, and like for all I know, they're going to introduce new champs, which would be awesome.
I think
Right.
they will. I think, and this is a prediction. I think they would introduce someone at the end of the arcs, like at the end of the 3rd act. There's going to be a new hero that will coincide with the game.
But one thing that I like about this so far, is that okay, so I have an idea who the champs are, but the setting is in a point where they're still trying to figure out their path, and they're not at where they are supposed to be in the video game, because I think a lot of video games adaptations struggle with the idea of how badass can we make these characters. But since we're put at the very start of their journey, we see hints towards what they can be, but they are still at that point where they're messing up big time. And
Yep.
I like that. I like that because you have to give them something to grow towards in order for you to really root for them, right?
And I like how basically the core of the conflicts surrounding these characters in Arcane is the discovery of Hextech.
Right.
Like, hey, I especially like how in the third episode they showed Victor and Jace in the middle of
Magic bubble.
yeah, in the middle of Magic Bubble, and in the middle of developing Hextech.
Yeah.
And then we can see on their side, you see the bright future of Hextech. And then they cut to the scenes where Vi and the other, Vi, Powder, and the other guys are getting ultimately beat up and then killed off by Hextech technology. So there's this
Effectively.
contrast.
Yeah.
You see how this Hextech has affected their lives either negatively and positively.
So I don't think that's gonna happen for the next episodes. So I think what's gonna happen is a very stark fight between Chemtech and Hextech. Hextech will be used the purple stuff.
Okay.
So basically, these heroes who are juiced up on whatever biological
the purple
stuff.
stuff.
So like I think that's what's gonna happen. Like all Hextech will be good for this coming arcs, and then Chemtech will be the evil thing.
I also I like the idea. I like the idea though that I guess one of the themes they're playing around with is that magic is powerful and dangerous.
Yep.
That it's a tool depending on whose hands it's in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And even like the professor being like, we can't go down this direction because I've seen what happens when the wrong people get their hands on it. And then later on, they push back and say, no, we have to be the city that brings this to everybody. And it's an interesting push and pull of philosophy and the idea of like unleashing dangerous powers onto the world that can lead one direction or another. And you're right that you cut between the wonder of magic and explosions at the dock, and it's even the inciting action. It's when they go and rob Jace's lab, and they create an explosion. It's obvious that these are the themes that they're playing around with already, and I think. Yeah, we'll see how they tackle the next few arcs, and the show is called Arcane, so it has to be a core of it.
Yep. And here's the thing about Jace too, because in the game, Jace is an arrogant prick, basically.
Yeah.
That's his backstory. He's arrogant. He sees himself as the hero of Hextech in Piltover, and then we have Victor, who started in the game. He started in Zon, worked his way up, and then saw Jace in a gala, and then they instantly had a clash of, they instantly hated one another. But here, they started off on the right foot. They started off as friends.
The question here is what Victor does in the next arc.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
Because technically, like in game, I don't know if he's good guy or bad guy. Technically,
Victor, okay, in the game, Victor doesn't. He wanted to utilize technology in order to help other people. Okay. But there's this one event wherein people were affected by some sort of brain damaging thing, and he wanted to save those people. And then he did that by introducing machinery in their brains. Yeah. And then he got hated and shunned because of it. And so he started discarding each human part of himself because he found it weak. Humanity is weak. Mm-hmm. And that's how he became Jace's foil. Because Jace wants to use Hextech in order to help humanity. Yeah. But Victor wanted to discard humanity. So I'm wondering how their relationship here in Arcane will branch out. Because they started off differently here. It started with Jace not being arrogant. He wants to innovate.
Not yet.
Yeah.
That's worth considering how arrogant he is, that he wanted to pursue it despite people telling him,
Exactly.
don't do it. And even during his trial where the professor says, okay, just don't tell them what you're researching. We can get you off, no problem. But he's like, no, I have to tell people what magic can do.
Yeah.
That's kind of arrogant.
Yeah, but my point here is
Kind of.
Victor and him met when he's on the brink of suicide. He was about to jump off the building, and Victor arrived, and then he's like, yeah, I'm intrigued in your studies. Let me help you. So they started cooperatively here. But Victor had a limp. They did not show this in game. He had a limp.
No, because
here.
he didn't have
I think-
he didn't have human parts.
I think that limp will be like the representation of somewhere down the line of him seeing the weakness in humanity.
No, I think he'll just get that. That's just a reason for him to have his staff. Like he'll have his hex tech staff to essentially like both help with the limp and maybe replace his first leg.
Yeah, or prosthetics, yeah. And I think the development of Hextech would probably be the reason why they're gonna be in conflict. Because Victor's gonna say, he's probably gonna
Probably
say...
not this season though. Like
Yeah,
because we're focused
probably
on Vi and
in
Jinx.
the future episodes. He's probably gonna say that, hey, Jace, if it weren't for me, you will be nothing. Hextech will be nothing. It's probably something like that.
I'm curious to see where. Oh well, maybe I should say this for a future part of the conversation. But I'm curious to see what the next arcs are going to be. If they're going to stay focused solely on, if it's going to be focused on Vi and Jinx, or if
Well, the
they're going
trailers
to-
already.
Let's go into that. Let's go into predictions, what we expect from the future of this show. We're going to see 3 more episodes. This probably published on Saturday as well. So
6
we'll
more.
see 3 more episodes
This
today.
Okay, yeah.
And then in a week, there's going to be another 3 episodes, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, because we already saw the trailer, at the end, it auto plays after the 3rd episode,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So after seeing that trailer, we see Jinx grown up.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna see a time skip now, and then
So it's time jump time.
yeah, it's time jump time. We'll see Caitlyn be an enforcer as well as Vi, because that's her officially she's an enforcer, right? On her lore. So I'm expecting that. Also in the TFT, she has the trait enforcer. So by that default, we'll see that happen. We'll see probably a couple more new heroes show up on both sides of the fight, and this is why I'm kind of leaning towards that the Chemtech versus Hextech fight will happen, because in game the TFT trait is Academy, so it's Academy versus Chemtech guys, and I think that's what we're going to be seeing in the next coming up. So I guess it's first of all it's a time skip, definitely. It's like 5-10 years into the future. Both Vi and Jinx are grown up now.
I think we actually, if you ask me, I think we saw Jinx grow up in 2 scenes. Like that one where she's going mad on the bunk bed.
Yeah.
I really felt like, oh my God, this is a completely different character. And you see kind of like how this character is breaking.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this psychological stuff is the stuff that really scared me away from showing it to my younger children. The suicide stuff and because getting stabbed, that's not new, right? Or like someone drowning, that's not necessarily new. Maybe the graphic nature is, but the idea of they left me behind at home, I'm gonna turn into a villain, basically in that moment, right? Pure intentions become a villain. I'm not sure if that's prime for a 8-year-old.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
that's what. And to be honest, that's the one that really took me out of. Am I gonna show this to my kids?
You know,
Probably not.
I was thinking as I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, I'm glad that this is not grim dark fantasy, because I can think of some examples which I'm not going to name.
But then it goes there.
But it's not. Yeah,
It's tragedy, though.
It becomes tragic, yes, but they build up to it, and in terms of that being the climax and of the first arc. Okay, I am bought in here. Even the idea that I appreciate the idea that this guy who's supposedly sort of the villain sort of has suddenly is like you
Has a
think
soft spot,
has
yeah.
a soft spot for this girl. Like, okay, he's not just going to murder her. Like I can think of some shorthand now where they try to just like, oh, it's the villain who meets one of the protagonists. He's just going to take her out. It doesn't go that direction. It opens a door towards an interesting direction for the storytelling, and the tragedy is earned. It doesn't just start with tragic backstory. It does start with a tragic backstory, but it doesn't dwell on that so much. Instead, showing you the tragic story, and it earns its way towards that, and that's why it's okay.
It also gives you an idea of like how similar people can end up as bad guys, basically, right? Because Jinx is essentially now gonna be on the quote unquote bad side. And is that who she is in the game?
She's just a prankster in the game, and her crimes are
Mischief.
enigmatic. Yeah, more on mischief
criminal.
based.
But it's obviously criminal.
It's mostly vandalizing. That's what she mostly does in the game.
So actually, that was an interesting thing wherein she, like in the game, she tried to make nail bombs, right? Which was kind of like, okay, we're going that way. So it is not a kids show. Like at some point, it's like, okay, this is not for kids. Because it's like mines and bombs and like traps, but like...
Oh yeah, it's like she tried to build a pipe bomb, basically.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, she's like this little child on the dock when she throws the bag, right?
Yeah.
She's like,
It's a nail bomb.
pipe bomb, please work, right?
Yeah.
That's basically, I built a pipe bomb, please work, pipe bomb, so I can. But should I say that this is the kind of thing that I would be interested in when I was 8, 9 years old?
These are things we can have personal interest but cannot advocate to the public.
I found that to be an interesting character moment, though. They are starting off at a part where they don't know what they're doing. So because they keep failing, that's what gets you rooting for them. That you are hoping at that, because of that failure at the docks, you're hoping towards the end. Yeah, come on, let's make that happen.
She did,
and then
but yeah,
she does, but it doesn't.
Results.
But it has bad results. But that's what makes it interesting.
So I think that's the advantage League of Legends will have, is that all heroes are main characters, regardless of the side they're on, right? Like Singe, although we didn't really see him talk about much, as we know, is a good hero in the game, and that I think provides them every hero is an anti-hero to some degree.
But that's true of any character selection game. Is that because for example, Valorant, I play a lot of Valorant. I found the characters that I play best as are not like heavy stat kill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I play as Viper, which is a smoker / controller, right?
Yep.
Basically, everything that this character does is kind of tactics based,
Yep.
right? And it can be probably thought that if you're going to make a Valorant TV series, Viper would probably be a bad guy.
But that's Valorant's a bit different.
What
right?
I'm saying is that you embody the character, so that character will always be your hero, your champion, your agent, right? You are kind of experiencing that reality vicariously through that character. It's role playing, and because of that role playing aspect, it doesn't matter. It could actually be bad to flesh out the story because you might stop relating with that character. So it is a risk in a sense.
That's fair.
But maybe if you're already bound to the character, you might be fine with just taking your own experience with it rather than watching the show. And that might be why they don't want to say that it's canon, because ultimately in a video game, it's your experience that is the canon. You think that's fair to say? Versus like the reverse, where there are TV shows and movies that they make into video games. There is a canon, but you're experiencing like a version of it.
Now, I'm gonna say this though. In the game, in League of Legends, they after they throwed away the thing about the fields of justice being grounds that summoners use in order to settle disputes. They just did away with all of that. What they've done is like the Summoner's Rift, and the game you're playing in League of Legends is just like a what if scenario.
Yeah.
What if these champions in the League of Legends universe face off in the field?
Yeah.
That's what it is. You don't really need to worry about you being a hero or you being a villain. It's just you messing around with, hey, what if I play a villain today? What if I play this hero today? But the canon is still there. Whatever they are in the biography, that's who they are. But League of Legends right now is in the state of evolution, if that makes sense. Like,
maybe
they're-
development
Yeah,
is a
development.
good word. Like it's being
Yeah.
redeveloped.
They're redeveloping, retelling, and reshaping the lore right now. And Arcane is one of the ways to do that. But the creators, again, Chris and Alex went on to say that they're not necessarily pushing anyone in Riot to rewrite established lore, but they are hoping that it can inspire something similar in Riot Games.
All right. So, question: when it comes to this next 6 episodes that we haven't seen yet, right? So we've seen 3 episodes. We have not seen 6 episodes. How literal to the video game do you think that this show is gonna get? Like, are we literally gonna see some sort of battle with towers and top, bottom, mid? Like, how
They
no-
already referenced the lanes,
No.
right?
That's never gonna happen.
Down here in the
That's not gonna
lanes.
happen. That's not gonna happen.
Again,
They didn't mention that, right?
I didn't catch that.
again, they did the way.
So they have referenced
call-
it.
they
Are
call-
they going
they-
to do it?
They referenced.
They
There's gonna
will.
be war, but I don't think. Well, to be fair, I think there is gonna be war, right? So they could do something about that.
If it were up to me, I would stay away from.
As referential,
I
yes,
would.
but don't- yeah.
Maybe reference like they did with the idea of lanes.
That's actually funny because it's top and bottom,
Right.
right? So like,
Yeah, yes. It's not no mid though. Maybe the docks.
bridge.
The bridge. I would just stick with references, but I wouldn't have them have
Yeah.
a summoner's rift where which they're using to.
no, so they're also not powered yet.
They're not gonna use it.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
We wouldn't
if
get
it were
there
up to me,
until
I
all of
wouldn't.
the lore is done. Yeah.
And I don't think they would.
Again, they already did away with the concept of the summoners.
Yeah, that doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's done.
Yeah.
It's not lore. It's not.
but they
canon.
did put in some of the items in the item shop in the
Yeah.
episodes.
Yeah, and that's fine.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
because that'll
part
happen
of
with
the-
especially in the magic lore, right? When we get to that aspect.
I think
Yeah,
they
and-
also
and
showed some of
those
the
are just-
neutral creeps in their montage of Zon. Like in one of the cages, there was like a
That was a krug.
huh?
It's a krug.
That's
Yeah,
a krug, that's
Yeah,
a
it's a
krug,
krug.
yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? One of the
It's a jungle creep.
it's a jungle creep, right? Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, this has to be
Yeah, in the game.
This
Yeah,
has
yeah,
to
yeah,
be
for
like a
sure.
game reference.
And for people like me who have not played the game, it just completely. It's like
just
when
a
you,
month,
it's
yeah,
like
it's
when you watch.
animal.
It's like when you watch a Pixar movie and then like there's a reference to like MacGyver or something like
Yeah. If you
like-
know, you know. But if you don't,
Yeah, like there
Yeah.
are things built in that are only for specific groups of people, like adults that like their jokes will not hit with the kids, right? But other people will get it. I thought that aspect was really fantastic
Yep.
with this show. That I felt like there was a lot more to it than what I was experiencing, and that was a good thing. I didn't feel left out, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right, prediction: where is the show gonna end?
There's definitely gonna be a resolution between the. There's definitely gonna be some sort of resolution regarding the problem around Hextech, or rather, the future of Hextech. Victor and Jace will be solidified as either rivals or outright enemies. Warwick will be Warwick.
You already said that someone who died didn't actually die. That's your theory.
Yeah, and that's Vander.
Yes. So you think that
I don't know,
Vander?
actually,
Vander comes back.
Let me rewrite this. Let me go back. Let me go back on what I said to you last night. I think Warwick, whoever Warwick was in the past in the game, died first. And that death was the catalyst of him turning into a monster. In Arcane, Vander, who's definitely Warwick, died. And I think here in Arcane, his body will be taken by Singe and then experimented on. And then he'll become the monster of Zon. He's going to be Warwick. It's technically the same thing, but it's different, which is what they've been doing in the show. Singed was established to be there, and the chemicals that were used to experiment on Vander was there. But in the game, Warwick's past was like he was kidnapped first by Singed and then experimented on before he died and then became Warwick, and then he was further experimented on to become that wolf. But over here, it's just like they just went straight to Vander dying.
Yeah, they took a shortcut.
They took a shortcut, but I think Singe is gonna still take
for
him,
sure.
and then
So Vander isn't dead, is what you're saying.
But they took a shortcut. Is it really a shortcut? I mean, we've gotten 120 minutes. And we're going to get a total of 6 hours of this show.
So what he's just saying is comparing it to lore. He's just making the reference that Vander becomes Warwick at some point, or is Warwick now.
Anyway, speaking of Vander, in the game Warwick had these in-game lines where when he meets Vi, someone who plays Vi in the game, he has a line saying that he's seen those sad eyes before. And then when he meets Jinx, he says something like, "I remember you, let me forget."
I play Warwick, but I don't remember.
And they've been, since the creators of Arcane have been heavily involved in these characters in the game, like way back. I think this is their way of using those. So they've been writing, they've already had these in mind from the start. And they're using those
from the start, or maybe midway through the development. I get that it's they probably had a lot of like story ideas for a long time coming, but I don't think I doubt that they planned.
And to be fair,
like,
Jinx and Vi are relatively new characters.
No, I think they've been planning this Jinx and Vi story before, and then they just.
No, I think they did. No, because the show's been in development for 4 years, I think.
I don't know.
2015, I think 2016.
When I think
so that's when Vi and Jinx came out.
Yeah,
so
they've already written it.
No, but Warwick's lines only came after that. Because the character.
Rework?
Yeah.
Again, I think they've been.
Yeah, they've been doing it for the 4 years. Like essentially, this has been in the plan.
They wrote in Warwick, and then connected it with.
Yeah, that's why they also gave him a rework plus the new lines.
Yeah. So when Jinx also meets Fiddlesticks also has a line saying that, "Hey, it's your fault. It's your fault." And Fiddlesticks, this character is known to extract or to show each character what they're most afraid of. And before, when Fiddlesticks meets Jinx, players were confused why he's telling Jinx that it's all your fault. It's all your fault.
So
and now with the release of Arcane, things are hitting differently now.
So who's Fiddlesticks?
Fiddlesticks is a scarecrow.
Yeah, no. Who was he in the show?
Nothing yet, but they've again.
Okay. So for the next episode. Okay,
I think they planted the seed way back.
Well,
That Jinx's past. Jinx screwed up.
I am more. This is less prediction and more a hope that they close off the story at the end of the next 2 acts. That this is a complete. I mean, not that they're going to kill off the characters at the end of it or anything, but that they bring the emotional arcs to their logical conclusion and the city of and the story of Piltover and Zon there. So because I say that because I would like to see more media coming out exploring the other ideas in the world without necessarily having to be like through the framing of the characters they have right now.
You don't want like Arcane, the story of Jinx and Vi Part 2. You want something new, something else.
After these two.
Yeah.
After
Because
these two acts,
that is because when we get a snapshot of that from the story of Jace, and his experience with magic.
All right, so
then-
what do you want to see where
So,
it goes? Where do you want the show to go?
So I agree with Pao. I do want to see it just close out the story at this segment. The thing I'm curious about is if they do actually kill off characters that are characters in the game. Like in the combat of things, and this is referencing what you were talking about, like do they actually fight to the death? Because we see a lot of dead people in the show, right? Just being killed off willy-nilly. And it's kind of why I didn't want to focus on like the human side of the characters, is because if they do that, the characters are soft or people are easily killed in this world, right? Versus if you create a lot of more magic, like people can take a beating and stuff like that, and they don't die necessarily, which allows in the future more elaborate fights, more elaborate, fight scenes and things like that, without the worry of like, okay, Vi took 3 punches from a monster and he's dead. She's dead, right? Which again we see in this case, wherein you could get stabbed and you're dead in the show.
Yeah.
Versus in game, you'll literally take a ult to the face and you're still alive, right? So there's a lot of these different things that could and could not happen because of it. And the last thing I do hope is that they do close this arc and they open up. They set the last episode basically to set it up for maybe Lux and Garen's arc, right? Because I think that's interesting. Demacia, which is the main. I mean, Lux is a poster girl for League of Legends, right? I would argue.
Really?
I would argue that Lux is one of their favorite characters to show in any promotion, in any, that and like Annie, maybe. But because Annie and Tibbers are always in any demo. Like there's always a giant bear in any league, except for this one, because it's Jinx.
I don't know anything about League,
Yeah.
and I know about that bear. So
Oh, sorry, I thought you pulled it up.
there's no bear behind you. I'm just pointing
I thought you
about
pulled
there's a
up.
bear
Yeah,
somewhere.
Annie and Tibbers are always in promotional stuff. And then Lux is the poster girl in general.
I think it's Ari. It's not Ari.
No. Ari is like the moneymaker, but I think poster girl wise, it's Lux. Ari is because of KDA, right? And that series of
Oh, Ari has been.
has always been, yes. But again, it's fan-ish service maybe. But yeah, I don't know what else to expect out of the series. Like I think we'll see the Vi. That's I guess the question I would have, or prediction is, do they kill off Vi or Jinx at the end of this?
So this is what I want to see, because taking off of that before we go to Peter, I want to see the Vi Jinx battle. The question is whether or not they reconcile or not.
That's true.
Then that will be interesting, because you really see with the way that they're playing, that they're developing these characters, that the emotional journeys play a large part of it, and they really try to communicate the internal struggles that they go through that lead them to make the decisions that they make. So now that we've gotten through that first arc, is there like a second battle arc and then a third reconciliation, they're fighting together arc? So that's what I want to see. That's ideally what I want to see, whether or not they are on different sides for that entire middle section and then it gets figured out at the end, or they figure it out in the middle section and then they're together for this final battle against a common enemy at the end. That's what I want to see.
What would you prefer? Seeing them together or against each other still at the end?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a preference. So, and that's where I think I'm different, is that I really believe that when it comes to media like this, some sort of story editor, it is their creation. And so I'm going to see it, and it doesn't matter what I think, like it matters what the creator intended, because it's their art. And that's interesting, because we're really seeing, for the first time, something that's very corporate. Like there is no way to make a video game of this scale without millions and millions of dollars. Like I think that's very well established. Not just the production, but like getting it to be as massive as it's gotten. There's no way to do it. And yet we're still able to get a very, I would say, true artistic expression. And I think a big part of it was that they brought back the original creators. So that's my experience with Arcane. I think that wraps up most of my thoughts. And maybe, Peter, you want to take us home with this one, with what you are expecting, what you hope to see? And yeah, why don't you go for that one?
So I'm hoping to see how Warwick developed or hung on to that heroic aspect of his, because Warwick in the game only kills killers. Even though he's a monster, he only tries to kill the evil elements of Zon. I want to see the journey between this insatiable bloodlust that Vander will get once he becomes Warwick, and how it tames down, and how he hangs on to the memory of his kids.
So really, all you want is the Warwick show. Like you're
No, hold on. Okay, that's one. The second one is
you want a whole Warwick episode. That's what you want.
I want the Warwick episode at least.
Okay, and then go on.
The second one is how Hextech both inspires Jace and consumes Victor, and how they clash between their beliefs, and how the council tries to deal with them, and how Victor probably teams up with the bad elements of Zon because he's from there, and if Jace hates it, I mean, my third expectation, and I think this will happen, is time travel shenanigans.
What? Wait, what?
I don't think so.
Is this?
I don't think so.
Is that a thing?
Hold on, all right, hold on.
Is this
Let
how
me finish this?
Is this how
'Cause-
respawning works?
No. Wait, hold on.
I'd argue, but yeah.
Hold on. Heimerdinger mentioned in episode 1 that you do not mess with time, right? They just put it out there.
Did he?
Echo, yeah.
Did he do magic?
Magic and time.
I don't think he said
Something
time, but okay.
Echo
Yeah.
Echo is there, the kid, and he has big regrets over what happened. And Echo is Kayo. Echo is a champion whose whole shtick is time manipulation.
He's a little brown kid, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the one with the white hair.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting, or at least hoping, that Echo right here will try to undo something.
Oh, I think
But
he
it will.
Yeah.
But it will not really
Work out, yeah.
work out. Or probably someone dies, like what you said. I'm
No,
also
Ben's already dead. So
no, like a hero, like an established champ.
No, I think he would try to rewind time to get Benzo back, but I think he just creates a mishap with Hextech that he created a literal echo of himself.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping. Some time traveling shenanigans.
That happens this season.
It is.
All right, so this comes out on Saturday. We're taping it on Friday before the next tranche drops tomorrow. And then this is gonna sit on YouTube forever. So a lot of people who are watching this next week and the week after that are gonna can comment about what idiots we are, how we got all of it wrong, or how maybe some of the things that we said are maybe better ideas. Maybe, because Lord knows that's what being a fan is all about. Having better ideas.
Right.
Yeah. So if you have anything to comment about our thoughts, please do leave them in the comments section down below. Final thoughts, anyone?
I think this was a great intro to the world, and kudos to the creators for making 3 episodes with a coherent narrative for a video game property. Because man, we've had so little video game to media adaptations that have done it right, and I think so far these guys did well. I'm looking forward to seeing more.
You didn't like John Leguizamo in Super Mario Brothers?
That was really interesting for its own way. Not because it was good, but because it was crazy as hell.
I know, right? That
You've never
image
seen
of
this.
Toad is stuck
Wait.
in my head forever.
You've
When
never.
was this?
This is like 1991, 92.
There was?
Dude.
Oh my God!
I know, I was born in
Ralph has
94.
never.
Yeah.
It was 1994.
Hey,
It was literally before.
Hey,
he was
you know
born.
Star Wars though, right?
Yeah, but you know.
I mean, come on, man. That was before any of us.
All right, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm really happy the way the show is going. I'm excited to see if they're able to land it.
Didn't like Warcraft?
Ooh,
I'll talk about.
that's a different podcast.
That's not. We'll talk after this.
In argument, technically Warcraft should have had the better start, right? Because they actually have lore to all of their characters.
Yeah. Here's the problem. The problem with Warcraft.
We shouldn't dive into that in this discussion too.
Different
that's a different
day. This is a
episode.
discussion for a
Okay,
different day.
The thing about Warcraft.
No. We'll end there.
Right after the show, we're all gonna sit down, fire up that VPN again, and watch us some Shang-Chi. If you guys would like to see that episode, or if we absolutely love this movie, or we absolutely hate this movie, which is Disney/Marvel's Shang-Chi, then maybe we'll shoot another one of these next week. All that said, I do want to conclude with this. I'm really happy that we're watching a very well-funded, well-produced production that is not owned by Disney.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Okay.
you know, like I mean, I might have some vested interest, right, with our history with Warner Media, but we do love a lot of Warner Media stuff. That said, that Space Jam was a disaster. like
I haven't even watched
we've had our fair share of crash and burns, right? So. Yeah, that said, like everyone's been trying to play to their. We have a large catalog of characters to work with, and now we're finally seeing a large catalog of characters to be worked with that is not owned by Disney yet. So maybe one day, surprisingly soon, Disney might acquire a company like Riot, but it's gonna be billions. Again, a discussion for another day. So we'd like to thank everyone for watching and for listening to this episode of Things We Watched, the T-Dub show, and from Honeycomb, Manila, in Pasay City, the Philippines. I'm Kayo on the controls, and on my right.
Peter?
Ralph?
Pow.
Thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys for joining me here. I wish you guys good luck. I wish you guys good health. I wish you guys some great Netflix watching over the weekend. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right. Peace.